Hello, it's Laura Chung, your host of Awaken and Align. I'm so excited to be back after a short break, and I'm recording this on Moon Day, July 25th. It's officially Leo season of 2022. And the last episode, which was with Yvonne Kopach, I announced at the beginning that I had written a book and that it's coming out September 6th of 2022. And I wanted to talk about it more. Here it is. Wow, there's so much to say, but first I wanted to make a quick announcement. The pre-order is open now, and for first-time authors, it's really, really important time. I'm trying to still understand the lingo and the industry of publishing, but in exchange for pre-ordering my book, which comes out September 6th of 2022, you will receive a free hour-long manifestation workshop on September 7th. And so my book, my baby, is a Virgo sun, which I'm super excited about because Virgo is my 10th house which is the highest point of my chart. It's my career, it's my visibility. Leo season happens to be my 9th house of publishing. So I talk a lot about the astrological transits and cycles in my book, actually, and I find it to be very important. But check that out with all the links that I will put in the show notes and also on the website to pre-order my book. I tried to make this book as understandable and digestible and practical as possible, including my own experiences and stories. But I'll get into that in a minute. I'm like all over the place because there's so much to share. And first of all, I just wanted to say that I realized during my break that I definitely have a creative cycle. And it's mostly during the water seasons for me personally because my water houses are the most intimate houses, the 4th, the 8th, and the 12th houses. And so I take the water seasons to release and cleanse myself. And it's when I have the least energy to actually produce content and to put myself out there. It's a time where I like to go inward and reflect. And during that time, I happen to be in Hawaii with my family and just taking time off and enjoying life and reflecting back on everything that has happened in the 40 years of my incarnation here on Earth. And I'm starting to get my energy back in Leo season, which is a fellow fire sign of mine. But I say this because what has been happening now with social media and just the pace of life is this content on demand, like feeling the need to constantly produce something, constantly needing to be putting something out there. And that's just not natural because I believe that we have cycles and we like nature. And sometimes we have a lot to say, we have a lot to produce and a lot to create, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes the reserves are dry and you have to replenish yourself and you have to rest in order for you to be not only inspired, but just get your energy back. And so I had put out so much content with the work podcast, with Awaken and Align, and with just writing this book and also my content on social media that I found myself completely drained. It was probably earlier than June, probably since May, and I just needed a time to restore my reserves of inspiration and content that I wanted to create. So that is why I haven't really been creating anything per se. Like I haven't really been motivated to interview people and to put myself out there because I do all of the reaching out. I do all of the research in my guests, and also with the work podcast, same thing. And so it's been a lull season for me, and in the past, I think I would have felt really bad about that because we've, as a society, attached our worthiness and our value to how much we do and how much we produce. I mean, that's something that I'm currently trying to release now. Pluto's in my second house in Capricorn, and it's a structure that I'm constantly trying to alchemize, that my value is not tied to what I do and how much I make money and how much I do. It's just the ability to create content is why we're here, and to be able to express ourselves. And we can only do that when we have enough energy and when we feel like it, to be honest with you. So I just wanted to say that first because it's such a huge part of this book, How to Manifest. I don't know if I told anybody the full story of how this came about, but I've been sharing it on my TikTok account, so make sure to follow me there. I do produce more content on there than I do on Instagram and YouTube, but basically I manifested this book deal and also writing this book based on my knowledge of the universal laws of my spiritual practices and just like pure faith and belief, and constantly removing the layers of limiting beliefs and conditioning and fears. And if I'm being honest, what I really wanted to name this book was Healing Our Belief in Lack. And just, I dedicate an entire week to healing our beliefs. So this book is a 40-day journey, which is broken down into 6 weeks. And I wanted it to be in a very systematic way because that's how our brains organize things. We're still linear. We're still very much in a paradigm where it's like we want to know steps, even though I believe this journey is not linear and it's not in steps, you know, like you can't say step 1, step 2, step 3, because everyone comes at this journey from a different place, from a different level of privilege and access to resources, but I wanted it to organize it in a way that just made sense. So it's broken down into 6 weeks, and each week we tackle a different area of our lives that helps with bringing down our conditioning and the limiting beliefs that we were all indoctrinated into. And it's a very important week. It's actually week 3 where we go through healing our beliefs and our fears and our limiting beliefs and forgiving ourselves for the decisions and the ways in which we came up short. And this is the biggest, I guess, takeaway from my book, if there was one, is that we can only make decisions and take action based on the information that we know at the time. And so being angry at ourselves and feeling shame and feeling these negative feelings about decisions that we made in the past that we currently experience now in our timeline is something that we need to constantly and continually forgive ourselves for. And forgiveness is not something like that comes easily, because we often feel like shame and guilt around certain topics that really, really have power over us. But, you know, obviously hindsight is 20/20. So if we knew better, we would do better. But now, in this moment, we have the power to make a different decision based on what we know now. And so the biggest takeaway, there's so many, is that my belief in manifestation has actually little to do with the actual thing, because manifestation is a verb. It's a noun. Manifesting is the verb. I believe manifesting is our ability to create. It's to take thoughts and ideas and bring it into the material realm. But what I've noticed and what I've observed in the manifestation industry or space since maybe just recently is that it's always been hyper-focused on individualism and getting something, acquiring something, more of something. And I've learned that that actually is just maybe 5% of the story. And listen, we're all human, so we all want things. I want a beautiful home. I want beautiful things. But I really started to see that that was just the byproduct of you just creating and expressing yourself and living in alignment with who you truly are. And I believe we were all born with very special gifts that are unique to us and that is our treasure. And I love that Joseph Campbell quote, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek." And I really believe that's the whole point of this 40-day journey from my book, How to Manifest, is this journey in finding the inner treasure within yourself that maybe you were unconscious of because of all the programming and limiting beliefs that you inherited from your ancestors and also your time here on earth. And so for me, again, manifesting is a process of removing the veil, removing the layers and the gunk of who you think you are to become more in alignment with who you really are, activating your gifts, activating your natural talents, because that's actually how we manifest, is from being who we are and being in alignment with our talents and our purpose. And in actuality, if you think about it, manifesting our reality that we want to live should be easy to us. It should come naturally, but the fact that it's not means that something is blocked, something is out of balance. And there's no shame in that, because we were taught the wrong things, and also we were taught to focus on things that actually doesn't matter. So for example, I give a lot of examples of my own personal life and how I feel like my parents, who are immigrants to this country, focused on safety and security and assimilating. And that's something that, as Resmaa Menakem says, respect the protect. They had to do that in order for them to feel safe and in order for them to protect themselves in a new country. And my ancestors had to do that in order for them to survive colonial rule. Many, many people had to do that in order for them to survive. And so we hide our gifts, we hide our natural talents, and then after some time you forget that they're even there. And so there's no shame or even like feeling bad about it, because we've all done it in some capacity. And what education teaches us is really how to just be all the same and conform, and just how to take tests. And that I like see it so clearly now that in actuality, our education system should highlight our gifts and how special we are and foster children's natural abilities, which to me is our intuition, it's our precognition, it's our psychic abilities, it's our artistic abilities, it's music, all the programs that are the first ones to go when, they're doing the budgets. But ultimately, I believe that we all have something unique within us, and the experiences that we have in life add color and texture to one day when you go from surviving to thriving. Your life experience and your ability to share your life experience and your story will be somebody else's survival guide. That is a quote from Brene Brown. I don't remember the exact words, but it's basically when you get to a place in your life where you can share your experiences and what you've been through, somebody out there will benefit from you sharing that, because they're probably going through something similar, or somebody that looks like you or has similar background as you. And I can finally say, so July 20th of this year, 2022, which was 5 days ago, I had this epiphany. It was Mercury, that weekend was like Mercury opposite Pluto, and then it was the Sun opposite Pluto, which is in my second and eighth house axes. I had this gigantic epiphany. I was like, I've been on this planet for 40 years and 4 months. 40 years and 4 months. And I finally come to a place in my journey here where I don't feel like I have to suffer anymore. I don't have to survive anymore, where my underlying simmering fears, I'm ready to let them go so that I can leverage, and I'm using that word leverage because I don't know how else to describe this feeling, but I can leverage my healing journey to help other people and to share my story with other people so that they don't have to spend 40 years figuring it out, and knowing and letting people know that they're not alone. So if you don't know, I obviously study astrological transits, and that's a big part of my study. But Pluto is a planet that talks about our unconscious fears, the things that control us, and what's happening now in the collective at a bigger level, at the macro level with, you know, the United States Pluto return, is we're being forced to look at the roots of our fears, the roots of our pain and trauma. And me personally, I'm having a Pluto square my natal Pluto, and then that weekend, it was, you know, all the Cancer houses, all the Cancer planets were opposing my South Node and the Pluto that's transiting my second house. And I realized like that I was trying to avoid this like low simmer level of fear of feeling like I'm not good enough, and that I have this like insecurity feeling and this fear of poverty and this fear of just never having enough, right? And there's so many other astrological things that are happening in my chart that also speak to this, but really I feel like first it was inherited by my ancestors, specifically not even that far away from my dad. He has a very, very profound scarcity mindset. And then also within my own life, like the experiences I've had that have colored that and added texture to that as well. And I realized like I don't want to live with this little like back burner fear for the rest of my life, because those unconscious fears were having powers over me, and in turn it was affecting how I navigated my life, and I just don't want those anymore. And I have Pluto in Libra, which is like fear of relationships and all of the limiting beliefs I have around long-term commitment. And I've, you know, really been looking at that these last couple of years. And it's like, you know, when you're just so finally ready to like clear and release your own bullshit, like this is where I am now in my journey. Like I'm just so done with, and it's not that I haven't addressed these fears before, because trust me, I have, but it's like I haven't picked at the root. I haven't like looked at the root and been like, there you are, we're done. And that's South Node in Scorpio, which is happening collectively for all of us. It's like looking at the root, looking at where it's rotten, and finally deciding like, you don't have power over me anymore. So even like writing this book, I started writing it during Scorpio season, and God bless my editor, all of my fears, all of my limiting beliefs came to the surface. And I do write about that in my book, that I'm not a good writer, that I'm not smart enough, that I didn't go to an Ivy League college, that who am I to write this book, another manifestation book? Like all of these fear thoughts came up to the surface, because I also realized during this journey that when you start manifesting and when things start happening for you, all of your fears, your limiting beliefs, your unconscious starts coming up to the surface for you to look at it, give awareness to it, so that you can recognize that they've had this unconscious power over you for so long And because they're unconscious, you don't know that they're there until they come to the surface. And it's up to you to look at that content so that you can release it and finally say, like, that is not me. That's not a part of my reality. And part of the manifesting process is allowing the old you, the identity of you that has been with you up until this point, to die away, so that what you are currently manifesting is going to require a different level of you, a different but the same you. You know what I mean? It's like, I also write this in my book, that Taylor Swift song where she's like, oh, Taylor's not here because she's dead. It's like the same thing. Like, it's you, but the old identity that you've been clinging on to dies away, and you become more of yourself, who was you in the first place. But what it is you're just unraveling these like limiting beliefs and fears that have been covering who you really are. Like what I was saying in the beginning, like the treasure within you. And so like, it's this whole metamorphosis, transformation process where it's super painful, because your ego, your spiritual ego, is there to keep you safe. And your ego is like, we got to hold on to this old concept of ourselves because that's all it knows. But your higher self is like, we're ready to shift into the next evolution of you, because ultimately the universe is loving. I believe it's loving. And your higher self and your spirit guides and ancient ancestors and infinite spirit want so much for you. But in order for all of that to happen, you need to evolve into the higher version of you, because you have to match its vibration, and you have to become in alignment with it. So that whole, like, it's like that part of the caterpillar phase where it's the goo, it like digests itself, and it's like the goo, and it's not the caterpillar anymore, it's not quite the butterfly anymore, and it's like, what the fuck am I? Where am I? And that requires you to be in the unknown, in the unseen realms. And this is why ultimately this is a spiritual journey, because if we were only relying on ourselves, it's gonna make you go crazy. It's gonna make you feel alone, and it's gonna make you feel like, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? And so when you can connect to spirit, your higher self, I connect with my ancestors and the earth, I feel grounded, and I know that even with all the chaos, it's like a very tower moment kind of thing. Like, even with all the chaos moving around me, I know that there's a reason why. And the reason is because something better is coming for me. That's what I actually want. Like, it's actually something that I've been putting my intentions out there. I've been doing rituals. I've been manifesting. And so what that's going to require of me is this patience and this trust and this faith. And so fear to me is like the ultimate, when you face your fears, it's the ultimate way to manifest, because fear shows up as impatience when you're like, where is my manifestation? Where the fuck is it? What's taking so long? Or asking when it's coming. It shows up as doubt, like doubting that it's gonna come, and then worry, like constantly worrying, like, I'm not gonna run out of money, I'm not gonna have enough money, where's my partner, where's my soulmate, all this stuff. And it, in your intellectual, logical mind, and then how we were trained in school is so left brain. Like, we have to plan for the future, we have to make a plan, we have to know what's coming next, right? That's very left brain, like how we were taught in school. We weren't taught the right brain part, which is like trusting your intuition, trusting the unseen forces that we cannot see with our physical eyes, but we could feel it. Feeling is the key, right? And what's so sad is like, we've been taught to, or not even taught, we were just not allowed and not given the permission to connect with our emotions and our feelings. And so you have so many people trying to spiritually bypass and like disassociate and numb themselves. And I do it too. I still do it. Even though I'm super aware, I still do it because disassociating and going off into the astral realms is way more, it's way fun. It's way more easy to do that than like, look at what's going on in this situation in time right now with our world. But then I remember that the only way to manifest and be calling in, not be calling in, yeah, like be and calling in the reality that I want to live in, I have to be in my body in the present moment, which would require me to sit in the uncomfortable feelings and emotions. And that is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because when you are conscious of when you want to disassociate, when you want to go off in the fantasy world, that's okay. We're meant to do that. But then come back into the physical body so that you can enjoy the beautiful gifts of this world, because it is a pretty polarized experience. And the duality of like the beauty and then the pain and the trauma and the healing is so profound that, you know, like that's like the temperance card, when you can temper both energies and have peace within yourself. When you have a beautiful high in life, when you have like the epitome of happiness and love, you know that that's temporary and that you're riding the wave. But then when you have that super low and you're like at the bottom of the wave, you know that that's temporary, and then you're going to go up, and that's like life, right? It's like the waves, and it's the perfect metaphor for it is surfing, honestly. Like the hardest part of surfing is paddling out, and standing to me is actually easy. It's like it's paddling out, it's observing which wave is going to be the right one for you, and being patient enough to wait for it. But once you find it and you ride it, there's like no effort at all. You just ride the wave, and all that momentum is behind you. Yeah, so I just wanted to quickly like say that this is a 6-week journey, 40 days, and it's intended to be a spiritual journey, and it's intended to get you back to your true essence. There's a chapter called Rewilding that I love. I'm obsessed with that chapter, because rewilding was something that happened to me in 2020 when I was staying with my parents. I still am staying with my parents, but I came back to nature, and I came back to the flow and the cycles of nature and life, and it really, really helped me to be embodied, really helped me to feel grounded and safe in my body. And ultimately, healing is just getting back to wholeness, because you want to manifest from a place of connection and wholeness versus separation. And I'm going to talk more about that in the future. But for now, I just wanted to say, like, wherever you are on your journey, you have the potential to change and course correct, or change directions, or create the reality that you want. Trust me, I've been on this planet now for 40 years, and now 4 months and 5 days. And I'm just getting started. Like, I feel like the previous me were all like, I'm a 3-5 sacral generator, so I'm an experimenter, and I have to go through life's toughest lessons so that I can see for myself. And I feel like everything before this moment was to prepare me for me, like Laura, me now being able to tell people my story and to help people navigate this journey. And at any point, you can decide differently for yourself. And that is the gift of this timeline right now, 2022, is that we have more access to information, we have technology, we have more. I know it seems like we have less freedom, and certainly it's nowhere near where we need to be, but technology and the internet has leveled the playing field, and so it connects all of us. So at any time, we can change our reality, we can make a different decision. And that is the power of being human, is that we can rise above our current circumstances and have higher levels of awareness and consciousness, that we can look at our situation and say, I don't want this anymore. I'm going to change this, and be our own heroes. We're not meant to be victims of our situation and our ancestors' situations. We're meant to learn from the past, extract the wisdom, and choose differently for ourselves. And so I also talk about ancestral healing in my book, because literally I've lived with my parents as an adult now for 2 years, and just everything that I've experienced with them has been just another reflection and mirror of, wow, like I get to choose differently. I don't have to do it the way they did, and that's such a privilege. So anyway, pre-order my book, How to Manifest. Join the manifestation workshop that's on September 7th, and it's free if you pre-order my book. And I just send you all so much love, because without this community, without your support and constantly like sharing and giving me all this positive feedback, I honestly don't know if my book would have come into my life. I will share that story of how that all came to pass, but my editor found me on TikTok, and my editor saw all of the content that I was sharing. So I really do believe that there is some magic in this world, some serendipity that weaves everything together. So I hope you have a beautiful week and month and Leo season. I will talk to you soon. Bye!